All right, so as mentioned, so I started Mesh Food Exchange after getting a couple of photos sent to me from some friends in industry. So both of these photos were sent to a local composter, both of them because they were badly forecasted orders that were rejected by their purchasers and sent to the composter. The only thing is the avocados on the right, this entire shipping container, was actually rejected by the composters because if you can see, they've got little tiny stickers on them and it would ruin the composter machines. So they rejected it and they sent it to the landfill. So I was like, what? Is this seriously going on? So I started doing a little bit of homework and I realized that we waste almost 40% of the food that we grow. And this is at a time when we have growing in food insecurity. And of course, food waste is one of the big contributors to greenhouse gases. Almost 20% of the methane gases that are being emitted are actually from our food waste. So with any sort of problem with enormous inefficiency lies some opportunity. So we worked towards, we spent about, I would say, 6 months really investigating the problem, trying to understand some of the root causes on why are we wasting this scandalous amount of food on a consistent basis. Obviously, businesses are losing a lot of money. And so what we decided was to create Mesh. So Mesh is an intelligent matchmaking redistribution platform. And so here it says Tinder meets Priceline for food. I know it's super cheeseball to use cliches like this, but there is a reason why people use cliches, because they work. So the way we see it is we want to be a matchmaking software. What we realize is that there's not so much a food shortage problem, there's a distribution and connection problem. So by providing just an online platform, we're able to connect surplus food with those who can use it. And so we're like, great, we'll grab food manufacturers and grocery chains and charities and we'll just put them all into this beautiful network and that will be great, we'll be a matchmaker. Then reality set in. So I'm just curious, how many startups are there or wannabe startups that have an idea going into startup mode? Just a show of hands. Oh, okay. All right, so for those who have gone into a startup mode, you'll quickly realize that planning something and then operating, you have some pretty humble lessons that you will encounter. So what we realized very quickly is that the problem is much larger than originally appears. So what we quickly realized was first we got a couple of clients, some large food manufacturers. They were like, we've got this surplus of food. One of them was this cheese manufacturer, and the end of their cheese logs are still fine, but they're not marketable. So they throw them out. And because it's a $100 million company, this accumulates to add up to tens of thousands of kilos of cheese that is surplus or shrinkage. So we're like, okay, let's package them up and let's donate them. So, but what we quickly realized is that the pallets of cheese, which are about 600 kilo each, is a mismatch for the recipient organizations, so for food banks and other nonprofits. So we would upload the food onto our software, and then these nonprofits was like, well, I'll take 10 kilos, and I'll take 10 kilos, and I'll take 10 kilos. And the manufacturer is like, I just want these out. I don't want to deal with 50 nonprofits coming to pick this up. I want one person to pick up. So our biggest lesson to date is that the problem that we originally wanted to solve is not as quite as simple as we had wanted. And now we have to be both a matchmaking platform as well as a logistics platform. How do we help redistribute that food into smaller pieces? And so that's probably one of our biggest learning lessons. And of course, the storage and the transportation come along with that. So we're now in a situation where we get to pivot, but the pivot is a great opportunity because now we're bringing in the transportation and storage nodes. So I was asked to just kind of summarize some of the main lessons. The first is be very clear on the problem that you're trying to solve and what problems you are not trying to solve. You can't be all things to all people, as hard as you want to be. Our mission is to solve food waste and to create a closed-loop food system. But of course, that's an incredibly big load, and big loads are hard to take off, and they're even harder to scale. So we're going through the task of trying to simplify as much as possible, really focusing on our target audience. We have to say no to a lot of people and a lot of opportunities, but we really have to focus, and that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And stay true to that vision so that you don't go down the rabbit hole and kind of drift into all these different opportunities, because this problem is absolutely enormous. We're one of the first companies in Canada to take this on with this business-to-business platform. There will be more. I hope there are more, because there's a very big problem. And so I would say those would be the biggest lessons to date. And I think I have another slide. Oh, so this is our impact. So we are what we like to refer to as a social enterprise. So we value multiple things in addition to sustaining ourselves financially. We're young. We're only 9 months old. And since we started our pilot, these are dated, but we're up to 60,000 kilos in food rescue, and we're over 50,000 meals provided. So there's a tremendous amount of food that can be rescued, that's still edible, still safe to eat. It just needs to find a home, and that's what we're out to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. No, there's going to be questions. Don't run away. Does anyone have a question? Oh, fantastic.
Hi, Jessica. I was just wondering if you had considered maybe partnering with someone, maybe a Pautsch or a government agency that has storage containers or storehouses, and that way have people, like literal people, come to the storage facilities, and that way the manufacturers aren't holding the food, but you are?
Yeah, it's such a great idea. Yeah, so we're actually talking to a few different government entities, as well as we're looking at, so part of the mesh idea is to create almost, to work with an existing company and mesh them in, it's almost like an Airbnb, but for storage. It's a pallet in, pallet out component. And the transportation piece is similar to Uber, but for freight. So the idea is that we work with multiple different storage providers, and that when we need a storage or a transport, it sends out an alert, and then it's an opt-in process. So if Ryder Transportation has an empty backhaul back to Ontario, they'll be like, oh, it's extra revenue. So yeah, so we're looking at really creative ways of integrating, so we don't have to build it. Yes. Flex? Okay, cool, thanks. All right, thank you.
You guys should talk afterwards. Anyone else? Oh, fantastic. 55,000 meals. What an incredible feat. Here you go.
Hi, Jess. So this is really awesome. And I just have a question regarding your business model. So
Yes.
I just wonder how you get the money to survive.
Yeah, great question. Yeah.
Who pays you?
Okay, so we have a couple of different revenue streams. So like any marketplace, eBay, Amazon, anytime a company wants to discount the food, so I didn't mention that it's not just a food donation, it's also discounted food, because companies, oftentimes they make an error, they need to recover their costs, somebody's job's on the line. So when they try to sell that food, we take a percentage of transaction fee. The other is enterprise software. So there's quite a few companies that have a consistent amount of food that they want to donate, and they have what's called a social responsibility fund. So they pay us large amounts of money to help us redistribute their food and design customized software specifically for them.
Thank you.
So.
I think there was one more question back here. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jess. What a amazing presentation.